A billionaire's daughter tells a homeless woman, "You need a home and I need a mom." The wind cut at their faces like a cold blade. Victor quickened his pace, feeling Lizzie's fingers growing colder inside his hand. The 5-year-old girl tried to keep up with her father's long strides, her blonde curls bouncing with their hurried rhythm. "Daddy, did you like my performance?" Her voice came out in little puffs of vapor in the cold air. "Of course I did." The answer was automatic, without much feeling. Victor always liked it. Or at least he pretended to. That's what fathers did, wasn't it? The school presentation had been about family. Lizzie sang a song about houses full of love, warm hugs and happy dinners. As he listened to her on the makeshift stage, Victor felt something tighten in his chest. It wasn't pride. It was a strange pang, as if something were missing. The other children talked about their fathers, their mothers, their siblings. Lizzie only talked about him. And when the teacher asked about her mommy, she said that hers went to live in heaven, with the kind of naturalness only children have when talking about difficult things. "Are you cold?" Victor stopped and knelt in front of his daughter. Her blue eyes were red, but he didn't know if it was from the wind or something else. "A little bit," Lizzie shrugged inside her pink coat, "but it's okay." That phrase hurt, but it's okay, as if she had already learned that some things in life were just the way they were, and complaining wouldn't help. They crossed the town's main street. The shops had already turned on their lights, creating small islands of warmth in the quickly darkening afternoon. Victor wanted to get home soon. He wanted the familiar silence of his own walls, far from the curious glances of the other parents at the school. "Daddy, can we go through the square?" Lizzie pointed to the small park in the center of town. "Just for a minute." Victor looked up at the sky, which threatened to snow. He looked at his daughter, who was staring at him with that hopeful expression he could never deny. "All right, but just for a minute." The square was almost empty. A few people hurried past, bundled up in their coats. The benches were covered in dry leaves that the wind pushed from one side to the other. Lizzie ran toward the small playground, despite the biting cold. That's when Victor saw her. On the most secluded bench, almost hidden among the leafless trees, a woman was sitting. No, not sitting. She was huddled. Her knees were drawn up to her chest, her arms wrapped around her own legs. She wore a dark, thin coat that didn't look nearly warm enough for the cold. Victor quickly looked away. It was none of his business. The town was full of people with problems, and he already had his own. "Daddy!" Lizzie had stopped playing and was looking in the same direction. "That lady is really cold." "Lizzie, come here, let's go." But the girl didn't move. She just stood there, watching the lonely figure on the bench. Victor walked over and followed his daughter's gaze. The woman had messy brown hair that covered part of her face. Her hands were shoved in her pockets, but even from a distance, he could see she was shivering. "She doesn't have a place to stay, does she, Daddy?" The question came out softly, but it hit Victor like a punch. He swallowed hard. "I don't know, Lizzie." "Let's—" Before Victor could say anything else, Lizzie let go of his hand and started walking toward the bench. His heart raced. "Lizzie, don't—" But it was too late. The girl was already in front of the woman, who looked up, startled. Up close, Victor could see she was younger than he thought, maybe in her early 20s. Her eyes were large and dark, full of fear. "You need a home," Lizzie said with the brutal honesty of a child, "and I need a mom. Don't you want to come live with us?" The woman was completely still. Her eyes widened even more, and she glanced quickly from Victor to Lizzie, then back to Victor again. Her hands were trembling. He couldn't tell if it was from the cold or from shock. Victor rushed over, his face red with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, she's just a child. She didn't mean—" But the woman didn't answer. She simply curled up even more on the bench, like a frightened animal. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "Lizzie, come here, now." Victor's voice was firmer than he intended. The girl looked one last time at the woman, then obeyed. But before she walked away, she said softly, "If you change your mind, we live in the blue house on Maple Street, number 15. Victor picked his daughter up, mumbled another sorry to the motionless woman, and hurried out of the square. His heart was still pounding. During the entire walk to the car, Lizzie was quiet, looking over his shoulder. "Daddy, why was she scared?" Sometimes people get scared when they don't know us, Lizzie. But I just wanted to help. Victor sighed. I know, but that's not how things work. The girl didn't argue, but Victor saw the disappointment in her eyes. He took her cold little hand, and they walked to the car in silence. During the whole ride, Lizzie was quiet, staring out the window. At home, the routine was the same as always. A simple dinner, a bath, a story before bed. Victor did everything on autopilot, but his daughter's words echoed in his head like a broken record. She needs a home, and I need a mom. After Lizzie fell asleep, Victor was alone in the living room. The house was too quiet. The heater made a low, constant hum, but it couldn't warm the emptiness that seemed to have settled in every corner. He looked at the photo of his wife on the bookshelf. Sarah was smiling in that picture, holding baby Lizzie. It had been taken 3 years before the accident, 3 years before everything changed. She needs a mum. Lizzie's voice came back to him. Victor knew his daughter missed a mother figure. He knew it, but he pretended not to. It was easier that way. Easier to pretend that the two of them were fine, that they could manage on their own. But today, in the square, seeing that woman alone and hearing his daughter's words, something had broken inside him. A wall he had carefully built over the last year. He stood up and went to the window. The street was empty, covered by a thin layer of snow that had started to fall. The streetlights cast small yellow circles in the darkness. Lonely together might be better than lonely apart. Victor closed his eyes and felt the weight of a decision he hadn't made yet. But that was already forming in the back of his mind. Maybe tomorrow he would go back to the square, just to see. Just to be sure he had done the right thing by doing nothing. The silence of the house weighed on him like a thick blanket. It was the kind of silence that wasn't peaceful. It was absence, an absence of voices, of laughter, of life happening. And somewhere in town, a woman was shivering on a park bench, just as lonely as they were. Victor woke up before his alarm went off. He had slept poorly, dreaming of frightened eyes and hands trembling from the cold. During breakfast, Lizzie asked 3 times if they were going to pass by the square today. Why? He asked, pretending not to know. To see if the lady is still there. The answer came simply, as if it were obvious. After dropping Lizzie at school, Victor drove straight to work, but by mid-morning he couldn't concentrate on his reports anymore. His daughter's words echoed in his head. Don't you want to come live with us? At 2 in the afternoon, he made an excuse and left the office. The square was empty, except for a few pigeons pecking at crumbs on the ground. Victor felt a strange pang, relief or disappointment, he couldn't tell. Maybe the woman had found another place to stay. Maybe... Then he saw her. She was on the same bench as yesterday, but today she seemed even smaller. Her dark coat was soaked from the fine drizzle that had been falling since morning. Her head was down, her wet hair stuck to her face. Victor parked and stayed in the car for a few minutes, trying to gather his courage. What was he going to say? How would he explain that he was there because of a 5-year-old girl? When he finally got out of the car, his footsteps echoed on the wet pavement. The woman lifted her head at the sound. The same big, frightened eyes from yesterday. Excuse me, Victor said, stopping a few feet away, his hands in his pockets. You were here yesterday when my daughter... She nodded slightly but said nothing. My name is Victor. He took a step closer. And you are? The reply took so long that he thought she wasn't going to speak. When it came, it was almost a whisper. Helena. Helena. He repeated the name as if testing its sound. Look, I know this is going to sound strange, but... Do you have a place to stay? Her eyes widened slightly. She shook her head. Have you been on the streets for long? A few weeks. Her voice was still quiet, but a little firmer. Victor took a deep breath. It was now or never. I have a proposal. I need someone to help with the housework and look after my daughter for a few hours a day. In return, I can offer room and board. And a salary, of course. Helena was completely still. Victor couldn't tell if she was thinking or if she had panicked. Why would you do that? The question was heavy with suspicion. Because my 5-year-old daughter thinks everyone deserves a home, he shrugged. And maybe she's right. You don't know me. You don't know me either." They stood there looking at each other in silence. The drizzle continued to fall, wetting Victor's hair and soaking Helena's coat even more. "I'm not good with kids," she finally said. "My daughter disagrees." Helena bit her lower lip, the same gesture Lizzie made when she was thinking. "And if it doesn't work out, then you leave. As simple as that. No promises, no eternal commitments. Just a chance." Helena looked at her own hands, then at the wet bench where she had spent another night. Victor saw the exact moment she made her decision. Okay. The blue house at 15 Maple Street was bigger than Helena had imagined. 2 stories, a small but well-kept yard, large windows with light-colored curtains. It looked like the kind of place where normal people lived normal lives. Victor opened the front door and gestured for her to enter first. The inside was cozy without being luxurious. Simple furniture, a few plants, family photos scattered on the shelves. "This is the room," he said, opening a door at the end of the ground floor hallway. "It has its own bathroom, and you can lock the door if you want." Helena entered slowly. The room was small but comfortable, a single bed with a light blue quilt, a dresser, a desk by the window. Everything was clean, organized, and smelled like fresh laundry. "It's yours," Victor said from behind her. She turned, surprised by the word, yours. It had been a long time since anything was truly hers. "I'm going to pick up Lizzie from school in a little while. Do you want to get settled? Take a hot shower?" Helena nodded, but when Victor left and closed the door, she just stood in the middle of the room, not knowing what to do. It was strange to be in an enclosed space after weeks of sleeping outside. The walls seemed too close, the ceiling too low. She opened the old backpack she carried and took out her only belongings: 2 changes of clothes, a toothbrush, a small notebook with yellowed pages, and a faded photograph. She put everything in the dresser but left the drawers slightly open, as if she needed to be ready to grab her things and run. The shower was the first real pleasure she had felt in weeks. The hot water on her cold skin, the soap that smelled like lavender, the steam that filled the small bathroom. She stood under the spray until the water started to cool. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she almost didn't recognize herself. Her clean hair was lighter than she remembered, her eyes less sunken. She looked like a different person, maybe a better one. She heard voices outside and tensed up. Victor was back with his daughter. Helena quickly dressed in one of her clean outfits and sat on the bed, her hands folded in her lap. The bedroom door was closed, but she could hear the conversation in the kitchen. "She stayed?" Lizzie's excited voice. "She stayed. Can I talk to her?" "Let her get settled first, Lizzie. She must be tired." Helena rested her head against the wall and closed her eyes. It was strange knowing someone was talking about her, planning around her presence. For weeks, she had been invisible to the world. Now, suddenly, she mattered enough to be considered. Later, Victor knocked on the door. "Helena, dinner's ready, if you want some." She opened the door slowly. Victor was in the hallway, holding Lizzie's hand. The little girl smiled when she saw her. "You look prettier," Lizzie said without a filter. "And you smell good, too." "Lizzie," Victor gently chided. "But it's true," the girl insisted, then looked at Helena. "Are you going to have dinner with us?" Helena hesitated. She wasn't used to eating with other people. For the past few weeks, food was something you got when you could and ate quickly alone. "If you want," Victor said. "Or I can bring a plate to your room." "No," Helena said softly. "I'll come." The kitchen table was small and round. Victor served a simple stew with fresh bread. Helena ate slowly, trying not to make any noise. Lizzie chattered on about school, about the drawings she had made, about her teacher who had funny hair. "Helena," Lizzie said suddenly, "do you like to draw?" Helena looked up from her plate. "A little." "Can I show you mine after dinner? I have one of Daddy and one of our house, and one of a giant cat that lives on the moon." Victor smiled. "A giant cat on the moon. It's a very long story, Daddy." Lizzie sighed as if it were obvious. "Helena, do you want to hear it?" "Lizzie, let Helena eat in peace." "It's okay," Helena said quietly. "I'd like to hear it." It was the first time she had spoken willingly at the table. Victor seemed surprised, but Lizzie was beaming. It's about a cat that was so big he couldn't fit in any house on Earth, so he had to go live on the moon. But he was very lonely, so the stars kept him company. Helena listened to the whole story and realized she was smiling. A small, almost imperceptible smile, but it was there. She couldn't remember the last time she had truly smiled. The first few days passed in a strange but functional routine. Helena would wake up early, prepare breakfast in silence, and tidy up the house while Victor and Lizzie were out. She cleaned, organized, did laundry. Simple work, but it kept her busy. Victor tried to talk to her sometimes, but she answered in monosyllables. Not out of rudeness, she simply didn't know how to make conversation. She had been alone for so long that the words seemed to have rusted in her throat. At night, she would have dinner with them, but almost always in silence. Afterward, she would retreat to her room and stare out the window until sleep came. It was strange to sleep in a real bed, between clean sheets, with the certainty that she would be dry and warm until the next morning. But it was also frightening. Every night she fell asleep, afraid she would wake up and find it had all been a dream. Every morning she woke up surprised to still be there. It was like living in a transparent bubble. She could see life happening around her, Victor preparing reports at the living room table, Lizzie playing with dolls on the rug, the two of them watching cartoons on TV. But she was on the outside, looking in through the glass, until Lizzie started to break the bubble. "Helena, do you know how to make braids?" The question came on a Thursday afternoon. Lizzie was sitting on the living room floor with a doll in her lap. Helena was folding laundry on the sofa. She stopped and looked at the girl. A little. "Can you make one on my doll? Her hair is all messy." Helena hesitated, then sat down on the floor next to Lizzie. The doll had blonde, curly hair similar to the girl's. Helena carefully took the strands and began to braid. "You have pretty hair too," Lizzie said, watching. "Why don't you put braids in your hair?" "I don't usually think about it. My mommy used to put braids in my hair before she died." The sentence came out naturally, without sadness. "Daddy doesn't know how." "He said a man's fingers aren't made for a little girl's hair." Helena smiled unintentionally. "Your dad said that." "He did, but he says silly things sometimes." Lizzie laughed. "Can you teach me how to make braids? Then I can do it on my doll and on myself too." "I can try." They spent the whole afternoon playing with hairstyles. Lizzie showed her drawings, told stories about her classmates, and asked about Helena's favorite colors. Simple, childish questions that she answered without realizing she was having a real conversation for the first time in weeks. When Victor got home from work, he found them both sitting on the rug, laughing about something. "What are you two doing over there?" "Helena taught me how to make braids." Lizzie jumped up to show off her hair, "and she knows how to do a special kind that looks like a flower." Victor looked at Helena, who had suddenly turned red. She quickly stood up and started gathering the hair ribbons scattered on the floor. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have." "It's okay," Victor said, and there was something in his voice that made Helena stop moving. "Thank you." That night at dinner, Lizzie didn't stop talking about the braids and how Helena knew funny stories about princess hairstyles. Victor listened to everything with a small smile on his face. Helena realized she was talking too. Not much, but enough to answer Lizzie's questions, to tell a silly story she remembered from her childhood. It was as if something inside her was starting to thaw. Later, alone in her room, she looked at herself in the dresser mirror. Her hair was down, still a bit messy from the afternoon of playing with Lizzie. Without much thought, she took a leftover ribbon and made a simple braid. It looked pretty, she noticed. She couldn't remember the last time she had cared about looking pretty. As she was getting into bed, she heard a soft knock on the door. "Helena," Lizzie's voice. "Are you awake?" Helena opened the door. Lizzie was in her pajamas, holding the doll with the braided hair. "I just wanted to say thank you for playing with me today." The girl smiled. "And also, can you teach me more things tomorrow?" "What kind of things?" "I don't know. Anything you know how to do." Helena knelt to be at the girl's height. "Okay. We can think of something. Good night, Helena." Good night, Lizzie." After the girl went to her room, Helena closed the door and lay down. For the first time since she'd arrived, she didn't stare out the window until sleep came. Instead, she thought about Lizzie's smile, about the stories they could tell together tomorrow, about the strange but good feeling of being useful. It was as if, slowly, she was becoming visible again. First to Lizzie, then maybe to Victor, and who knows, maybe one day to herself too. That night, Helena slept without the fear of waking up to find it had all been a dream. For now at least, she had a place. She had a room with a door she could close, a little girl who liked her braids, and a man who said thank you with sincerity. It wasn't much, but it was infinitely more than she had yesterday. And for the first time in weeks, that felt like enough. "Helena, would you like to have tea with me?" The question came in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. Helena was folding towels in the living room when Lizzie appeared, dragging a small pink toy table and 2 tiny chairs. "Tea?" Helena stopped folding the towels. "Yeah, pretend tea, but with real cookies." Lizzie began to arrange plastic cups on the table. My mommy used to have tea with me before, you know." Helena felt something tighten in her chest. The girl spoke of her mother with a naturalness that was both painful and impressive. "I don't know if I can fit in those chairs," Helena said, trying not to smile. "Of course you can, you just have to sit down carefully." Lizzie pulled out one of the little chairs. "Oos, please. I made special invitations." She showed 2 pieces of paper with colorful drawings and the word invitation written in crooked letters. Helena looked at the tiny chairs, then at Lizzie's hopeful face. How could she say no? "All right, but if I break the chair, you're the one explaining it to your dad." Lizzie laughed out loud. "He won't get mad." "Daddy only gets mad when I forget to brush my teeth." Helena carefully squatted down into the pink chair. Her knees were almost at her chin, but she managed to balance. Lizzie clapped her hands, excited. "Now, you have to talk in a high-pitched voice, like a princess." "A high-pitched voice?" "Yeah. Like this. Oh, what a marvelous tea, Lady Lizzie." The girl put on a squeaky voice that sounded more like a mouse. Helena tried to imitate her. "Oh, what a marvelous tea." "No, higher, and put your hand on your chest, like this." Lizzie demonstrated a dramatic pose. Helena placed her hand on her chest and tried again, forcing her voice higher. "Oh, what an absolutely marvelous tea, Lady Lizzie." "Perfect." Lizzie served the imaginary tea with all seriousness. "Now we have to talk bad about the other princesses." "Talk bad." "Yeah. Like this. Did you see Princess Charlotte's awful dress at the ball?" Lizzie whispered conspiratorially. Helena leaned forward, getting into the game. "Oh, yes, and that hairstyle. It looked like she stuck her finger in a socket." Lizzie burst into laughter. "In a socket? That's so funny." And then it happened. Helena started laughing too. It wasn't a polite or forced smile. It was a real spontaneous laugh that came out before she could control it. A laugh that came from deep in her chest and made her eyes water. Lizzie stopped laughing and stared at her with wide eyes. "What is it?" Helena worried. "Did I say something wrong?" "No," Lizzie said, a huge smile on her face. It's just that you have a pretty smile. A really pretty one. You should smile more often." Helena felt her face grow warm. It had been a long time since anyone had said she had anything pretty. "Thank you," she murmured. "I'm serious." "When you laugh, your eyes look different, brighter." Lizzie poured more imaginary tea. "Daddy looks prettier when he smiles too, but he forgets to do it sometimes." They continued drinking tea and making up stories about mean princesses and princes who were afraid of little dragons. Helena discovered that it was easy to play with Lizzie. The girl had an imagination that turned anything into an adventure. "Helena," Lizzie said after a while, "can you help me tidy up my room? It's a mess, and Daddy said if I don't clean it, the toys will run away during the night." "The toys will run away?" "Yeah. He said they get tired of being left on the floor and go look for kids who take better care of them." Helena laughed again. "Your dad has an interesting imagination. He makes up all sorts of stories. But will you come help me?" "Of course." Lizzie's room looked like it had been hit by a pink hurricane. Dolls scattered on the floor, open books, doll clothes mixed with colored pencils and building blocks. "Wow," Helena said, standing at the door. "I know it looks bad, but it's hard to clean up by myself." Lizzie accidentally kicked a doll. "Can you teach me how to do it right?" They spent the next hour organizing everything. Helena showed her how to sort the toys by type, how to fold the doll clothes, how to put the books in order. Lizzie helped, chattering non-stop, telling stories about each toy. "This one is Sophia. She's a little bossy, but she's nice. And this bear is Teddy, real original, right? Daddy picked the name." Lizzie picked up a faded brown teddy bear. "He slept with me since I was a baby." Helena held the bear carefully. You could tell it was well loved. The fur was worn in places, and one of the ears was a little crooked. "He's special. He is. When I'm sad, he keeps me company." Lizzie hugged the bear. "Do you have any special toys?" Helena thought about the few belongings she had brought. "I have a notebook. It's not really a toy, but..." "Is it special?" "It is." "Then that counts. Special is special no matter what it is." When they finished tidying the room, Lizzie flopped onto the bed, satisfied. "So now it looks beautiful. Thanks for helping me." She grabbed paper and colored pencils from her desk. "I'm going to make a drawing for you." "You don't have to." "I want to." Lizzie was already concentrating, the tip of her tongue sticking out the corner of her mouth as it always did when she drew. Helena sat on the edge of the bed and watched. The girl drew with firm, decisive lines. First, she drew a house, their house, Helena realized. Then 3 figures in front of the house. Done. Lizzie proudly showed her the drawing. Helena looked at it and felt the air leave her lungs. The drawing showed 3 people holding hands in front of the blue house. A tall man with dark hair, a woman with brown hair, and a little girl with blonde hair. They were all smiling. "It's us," Lizzie said simply. "You, me, and Daddy." Helena stared at the paper, unable to speak. In the drawing, she wasn't on the outside looking in. She was in the middle, holding hands with both of them, a part of the family. "Do you like it?" Lizzie asked, a little unsure due to the silence. Helena had to swallow hard before she could speak. "It's very beautiful, Lizzie. Very beautiful indeed. It's for you. You can hang it in your room if you want." Helena held the drawing as if it were made of glass. "Thank you. I'll treasure it." Later, alone in her room, Helena taped the drawing to the wall next to her bed. She stared at it for a while, at those 3 figures holding hands, at the family Lizzie had drawn. That's when the tears came. She sat on the bed and cried silently, trying not to make a sound. It wasn't exactly sadness, it was something more complicated. It was the pain of realizing how much she had lost, mixed with the surprise of discovering she could still gain something. It had been years since anyone had included her in anything. It had been years since she was just a shadow passing through other people's lives. And now a 5-year-old girl had drawn her as part of a family. Helena dried her eyes and looked at the drawing again. On the paper, she was smiling. Lizzie had drawn her smiling. "You have a pretty smile. You should smile more often." Maybe the girl was right. The house was different. Victor noticed it on a Tuesday morning, while he was drinking coffee and reading the paper in the kitchen. It took him a moment to identify what it was, until he realized there was sound. Not noise, sound. Quiet voices talking, light footsteps going up and down the stairs, little laughs coming from the living room. The house had gained a soundtrack he didn't even know was missing. Helena was at the sink washing dishes, humming a soft tune he didn't recognize. Lizzie was at the table next to him, coloring a picture and asking questions about everything. "Helena, why is the sky blue?" "I don't know, Lizzie. What do you think?" "I think it's because God likes blue." "Could be. Or maybe it's because blue makes everyone calmer." "That could be it too," Victor smiled behind his newspaper. Helena had mastered the art of talking to a child, agreeing with their wild theories without correcting too much, asking questions that led to more questions. "Daddy," Lizzie turned to him, "what's your favorite color?" "Blue, I guess." "Mine is pink. And yours, Helena?" "Green." The answer came as she dried a plate. Green like new leaves. Oh, I like that green too. I'm going to use it in my drawing. Victor lowered the newspaper and watched the scene. Helena had put on an apron she'd found in a cupboard, an apron that had belonged to Sarah. It was a little big on her, but it suited her. Her hair was tied back in a low ponytail, with a few loose strands framing her face. She looked different, more present somehow, as if she had gained color. "What are you drawing there?" Victor asked Lizzie. "A giant tree with green leaves, pink flowers, and a blue sky. The family's three favorite colors." The family's three favorite colors. The phrase hit Victor like a gentle punch. Lizzie had automatically included Helena in the family, and Helena hadn't corrected her. "It's going to be beautiful," he said. After breakfast, Helena started to tidy up the house, but it wasn't the mechanical cleaning of the first few days. Now she arranged the sofa cushions with care, watered the plants as if she knew each one, and folded the laundry with attention to detail. Victor watched her from a distance, pretending to read emails on his laptop. Helena picked up a photo that had fallen behind the bookshelf, a photo of him with Sarah and baby Lizzie. Instead of just putting it back in its place, she carefully cleaned the glass and positioned it where it would catch the light better. "Sorry," she said when she noticed he was watching. "I didn't mean to touch your things." "It's okay. Thank you for taking care of it." Helena nodded and continued tidying. But Victor saw something on her face, an expression of genuine care as she looked at the photo, as if she understood how important that image was to them. That evening, after dinner, Helena started telling Lizzie a story. It was something that had become a routine over the last week. Lizzie would snuggle up on the sofa next to her, and Helena would make up stories about brave princesses, talking animals, and magical worlds. Once upon a time, there was a fox who lived in a very dark forest, Helena began, with Lizzie clinging to her arm. She was very lonely because all the other animals were afraid of her. "Why were they afraid?" Lizzie asked. "Because she was different. She had fur as red as fire and golden eyes that glowed in the dark." Victor sat down in the armchair to listen. Helena told stories with a soft voice that made even him pay attention. But one day, a little rabbit got lost in the forest. She was very scared and crying. The fox heard her cries and, even knowing the rabbit would be afraid of her, went to help. And then? At first, the rabbit was scared, but the fox spoke in a gentle voice. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help." And slowly, the rabbit realized that the fox had a good heart. Lizzie was mesmerized. Did they become friends? They did. And do you know what happened? When the other animals saw that the rabbit wasn't afraid of the fox, they lost their fear too. They discovered that being different doesn't mean being dangerous. And the fox wasn't lonely anymore. Not anymore. She found a family in the forest. Victor felt a tightness in his chest. He didn't know if Helena was telling the story for Lizzie or for herself. When Lizzie went to bed, Helena said goodnight and went to her room. Victor stayed in the living room, thinking about the story of the fox, the caring way Helena had adjusted the photo, and the smile that Lizzie hadn't wiped off her face lately. His daughter was different. Happier, more talkative, more of a child, and he knew exactly why. Helena was no longer just someone who worked in the house. She was someone who cared, who listened to Lizzie's crazy stories with genuine interest, who invented games, who did her hair in braids and told bedtime stories. She was someone who had filled a void he didn't even know existed. Victor stood up and went to the living room window. The street was quiet, lit only by the streetlights. He thought about what the house was like before Helena arrived, functional, organized, but devoid of life. Now there was laughter echoing through the hallways. There was the smell of cinnamon in the air, because Helena had discovered Lizzie liked cinnamon toast for breakfast. There were quiet conversations during dinner, bedtime stories, little rituals that made the house a home. Helena had arrived as a stranger in need of shelter, but somehow, without anyone planning it, she had become essential. Not as an employee, but as someone who was part of their lives. And for the first time since Sarah died, Victor allowed himself to think that maybe, just maybe, they could be a family again. A different kind of family, built not on blood or marriage, but on choice, care, and affection. A family that a 5-year-old girl had drawn one afternoon, with 3 figures holding hands in front of a blue house. He glanced toward the hallway where Helena's room was. The light from under her door was on. She was probably reading or looking at the drawing Lizzie had made. Victor smiled. Tomorrow, he would thank Helena properly, not for the work she did, but for bringing life back into that house, for making his daughter smile again, for reminding him that a house could be more than just a place to sleep. The lights went out during dinner. One second they were talking about Lizzie's day at school, the next the house was plunged into complete darkness. Lizzie let out a small yelp of surprise, but then quickly started to laugh. "This is cool, it's like an adventure," Victor sighed. "Must be the storm. I'll see if there are any candles in the pantry." Helena stood up too. "I know where they are. I saw some in the kitchen drawer." They fumbled in the dark until they found the candles. Victor lit 3 of them with a lighter, and the golden, flickering light filled the kitchen with a soft glow. Shadows danced on the walls, creating a completely different atmosphere from their usual well-lit house. "Can we have dinner by candlelight?" Lizzie asked, excited. "Like in the princess movies." "Why not?" Victor said, placing a candle in the center of the table. "But be careful not to burn your fingers." They finished their dinner in an almost reverent silence. There was something magical about the soft candlelight, the way it softened their faces and made everything feel more intimate. Lizzie ate more slowly, fascinated by the moving shadows. "It's pretty like this," she murmured. "Cozier." After dessert, Victor carried Lizzie in his arms and Helena took 2 candles. They went to the living room, where they settled on the sofa. Lizzie snuggled between them, sleepy from her busy day and the cozy atmosphere. "Tell a story, Helena," she asked, yawning. "What story do you want to hear?" "One about the dark, but not a scary one." Helena thought for a moment, looking at the dancing flames. "Once upon a time there was a town that lost all its light," she began. "The people were scared at first, but then they discovered something special." "What?" "That when there were no electric lights, they could see the stars, and that when they spoke more softly, they could hear each other better." Victor looked at Helena over Lizzie's head. There was something different in her voice, softer, more present. "And what else?" Lizzie murmured, her eyes heavy. "The people discovered that the dark wasn't something to be afraid of. It was just an invitation to get closer to one another." Lizzie fell asleep before the story ended. Victor carefully picked her up. "I'm going to put her to bed," he whispered. Helena nodded and waited in the living room, watching the candles burn. When Victor came back, she was sitting quietly, looking at her hands. "She was out the second her head hit the pillow," he said, sitting down on the sofa again. "She was exhausted. It was a long day for her." They sat in silence for a while. The wind outside rattled the windows, but inside the house, with the golden candlelight, everything felt safe and protected. "Helena," Victor said suddenly, "can I ask you something?" She looked at him, a little tense. "How did you end up on the street?" Helena took a deep breath. It wasn't a question she had expected, but maybe it was time to tell him. "My parents died when I was 17, she said softly. "A car accident. I had no one else, and the house had to be sold to pay off debts." Victor nodded, encouraging her to continue. "I stayed with an aunt for a while, but she had her own problems. It didn't work out." Helena fidgeted with her hands. "I tried to make it on my own. I worked a few jobs, shared an apartment with other people. But it was hard." "What happened?" "I lost my job a few months ago. I couldn't pay my share of the rent. My roommates gave me 2 weeks to find another place." She gave a sad smile. 2 weeks wasn't enough. Victor felt a tightness in his chest. That must have been so difficult. It was, especially the nights. During the day, you can pretend you're just out for a walk, that you have somewhere to go, but at night, Helena shook her head. At night, you realize you're truly alone in the world. Were you scared? Very. Not just of being robbed or hurt. I was afraid of becoming invisible forever. Of being just another person that others pretend not to see on the street. Victor was quiet for a moment, processing her words. "I'm sorry," he finally said. No one should have to go through that. What about you? Helena asked, turning to him. How was it after your wife died? Victor sighed deeply. He never talked about Sarah with anyone but Lizzie. Hard, he admitted. She was the kind of person who made everything seem easier, lighter. When she died, it was like the color drained from the world. Helena listened in silence, not trying to comfort or interrupt him. The worst part was seeing Lizzie ask for her, Victor continued. For the first few months, she still expected her mum to come back. She would ask when Mommy was coming home from work, if she could call her in heaven. How did you explain it? Poorly. Victor laughed without joy. I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't. Sometimes I lie awake at night wondering if I'm raising her right, if I'm being the father she needs. You're a good father, Victor. The statement came with such certainty that it surprised him. How can you be so sure? Because she's a happy little girl, curious, caring, confident. Kids like that don't just happen. They're raised with love. Victor felt his eyes sting. No one had ever said that to him before. Some days I feel completely lost, he confessed, like I'm just winging it. Everyone is just winging it, Helena said softly. The difference is you care enough to worry if you're doing it right. They fell silent again. The candles had burned down almost halfway, creating small pools of wax on the table. Can I ask you something now? Helena said. Of course. Why did you bring me here? For real. It wasn't just because Lizzie asked. Victor thought about the answer. It was a question he had asked himself several times. I think it was because you looked lost. The way I feel sometimes. He fidgeted with one of the candles. And because Lizzie saw something in you that took me a while to see. What did she see? That you needed a home, as much as we needed someone to make this house a home again. Helena looked at him, surprised by his honesty. Do you feel like this is your home now? Victor asked. Helena took a moment to answer. I'm starting to, she admitted. For the first time in a long time, I wake up in the morning and I'm not afraid. I don't have to keep looking over my shoulder, planning how I'll get food, where I'll sleep. And is that a good thing? It's terrifying, she confessed. When you have nothing to lose. But when you start to get attached, she didn't finish the sentence. When you start to get attached, you remember that pain exists, that it's possible to lose what matters. Victor nodded. He knew that feeling. But you also remember that it's worth it, he said quietly. Helena met his eyes for the first time in their conversation. In the golden candlelight, her eyes seemed warmer, less afraid. Is it? It is. At least I'm starting to remember that. One of the candles sputtered, drawing their attention to the still dancing flames. The storm outside had subsided, but the power hadn't come back on yet. Thank you, Helena said suddenly. For what? For letting me be a part of this. Of your family, of your lives. I know it was a risk. Thank you for agreeing to be a part of it. Victor realized he meant it. Helena hadn't just filled an empty space in the house. She had brought something new, a different perspective, a presence that made both him and Lizzie feel less alone. The power will be back on soon, he said, looking at the window. Probably. But this was nice. This time in the dark. Helena smiled, a small but genuine smile. Yes, it was. Neither of them got up to go to bed. They stayed there in the soft candlelight, in a comfortable silence that didn't need to be filled with words. Two adults who had found a way not to be alone in the world, at least for now. When the power finally came back on an hour later, they blew out the candles in silence. But the feeling of intimacy and trust that had been born in the dark remained, like an invisible bridge built between two hearts learning to trust again. Helena woke up that Thursday with a strange feeling. It took her a few seconds to identify it, until she realized, for the first time in years, she had woken up happy. Not just rested or relieved to have a roof over her head. Happy, as if she had something to look forward to in the day ahead. She got up and went to the kitchen to make breakfast. It was a routine that had already become part of her, waking up before the others, starting the coffee maker, setting the mugs on the table. Simple gestures that had become automatic, natural. Victor came down a few minutes later, his hair messy and still half asleep. "Good morning," he said, as he did every morning. "So it's good morning." Helena poured his coffee without needing to ask how he liked it. 2 spoons of sugar, a little milk. She already knew. Lizzie appeared next, running down the stairs with her school uniform slightly crooked and wearing 1 pink sock and 1 yellow one. "Helena, did you see my other pink sock?" "There's only 1 in the drawer." "It's on the line in the backyard. I washed it yesterday." Helena was already grabbing the dry sock. "Come here, let me help you with that uniform." As she straightened Lizzie's shirt, Helena realized how natural it all felt. As if it were her own daughter she was getting ready for school, her own house she was organizing, her own family having breakfast, her family. The thought struck her like a shock. When had she started thinking that way? "Helena, do you think I should take my new drawing to show at school?" Lizzie asked, chewing on a piece of toast. "Which drawing?" "The one with the 3 bears. Remember, the papa bear, the mama bear, and the baby bear." Helena remembered. Lizzie had made the drawing 2 days earlier, explaining that it was a family of bears who lived in a house in the forest and protected each other from the cold by always staying close together. "I think so." "It's very beautiful. Can you write my name on the back? Your handwriting is prettier than mine." Helena took the drawing and wrote Elizabeth Clark in neat script. Lizzie smiled, satisfied. "Thanks. You're the best." The simple phrase made Helena's heart ache in a way that was both good and scary. During breakfast, they talked about their plans for the day. Victor had an important meeting at work. Lizzie was going to present her drawing to the class. Helena was going to take the opportunity to organize the pantry. "Oh, and don't forget today is pizza night," Victor said, finishing his coffee. "Thursday night tradition." "Pizza!" Lizzie clapped her hands. "Helena, do you like pizza?" "I do." "What's your favorite kind?" Helena thought. It had been so long since she'd eaten pizza that she couldn't really remember. "Margarita, I think." "Just like Daddy. I like pepperoni. We can get half and half." Victor looked at Helena with a smile. "Settled then. Tonight is pizza and a movie night." Helena felt a wave of pleasure so strong it almost scared her. The prospect of spending the evening with them, watching a movie, eating pizza, being part of that simple, happy moment. This is what a normal family did, she realized. Little rituals, silly traditions, moments together that weren't special on their own but formed the texture of a shared life. After Victor and Lizzie left, Helena was alone in the house. She started to clean and organize, but she was distracted. Her thoughts kept returning to the feeling of belonging she had felt during breakfast. She stopped in front of the bathroom mirror and looked at herself. Her face was different, fuller, more rested. Her eyes had lost the scared, alert expression she had carried for so long. She looked like a different person. She looked like someone who had a home. The thought made her swallow hard. When was the last time she had felt at home somewhere? When was the last time she had woken up happy? In the afternoon, when she went to the market for some groceries, she greeted the cashier as if she were just another neighbor. She bought Lizzie's favorite cookies without a second thought. She picked out a spice she knew Victor liked. She was acting as if this were her real life. On her way back, she ran into the next-door neighbor watering her plants. "Hi, Helena, how are you?" "Hi, Mrs. Martha, I'm doing well." "It's so good to see Victor and Lizzie looking happier lately. You've done a world of good for that family." Helena smiled and thanked her, but the words echoed in her head all the way home. "You've done a world of good for that family." As if she were an official part of it, as if it were permanent. But nothing was permanent. She knew that better than anyone. That night, during their pizza dinner, Helena found herself laughing at a silly joke Victor told, laughing for real, without forcing it, without thinking. Lizzie was ecstatic, talking about her class's reaction to the bear drawing. "The teacher said it was very beautiful and asked if I had help at home," Lizzie said, taking a bite of a pepperoni slice. "I told her that Helena taught me how to make the prettiest trees. And you did a great job all by yourself," Helena said. "But you taught me. We make a good team." Victor watched the interaction with a smile on his face. You two are always scheming something together." "We're not scheming, Daddy. We're planning," Lizzie corrected him. "Seriously," Helena said, "planning is different from scheming." "Oh, my apologies. Planning, then." Helena laughed at Victor's expression. It was all too easy to be here, talking, being a part of all this. Too easy. The thought appeared out of nowhere and hit her like a bucket of cold water. It was too easy, too comfortable. She was getting too attached. "Helena, are you okay?" Victor asked, noticing she had suddenly gone quiet. "I'm fine, just a little tired." But it wasn't fatigue, it was fear. She was getting attached not just to Lizzie, but to Victor too. She liked it when he smiled at her during breakfast. She liked it when he asked for her opinion on something. She liked how he treated her with respect, as if she were important. And that was dangerous, because what if it all ended suddenly? What if Victor decided he didn't need her anymore? What if he found someone to marry, someone who could be a real mother to Lizzie? And what if she didn't have the strength to lose it all? During the movie, Helena sat tensed on the sofa. Lizzie was leaning against her, as she always did, but now Helena was hyper-aware of the contact, of how used to this affection she had become, of how much it would hurt when it was gone. "Fine, not enjoying the movie?" Victor asked quietly, so as not to wake Lizzie, who was nearly asleep. "It's fine," Helena replied, but her voice came out colder than she intended. Victor looked at her curiously but didn't press the issue. In the following days, Helena began to close herself off. Not on purpose at first, it was more of a protective instinct she didn't fully realize. When Victor tried to start a conversation during breakfast, she would answer in monosyllables. When Lizzie asked her to play, she would invent urgent chores around the house. When they watched TV together at night, she would sit farther away on the sofa. "Helena, do you want to help make cookies?" Lizzie asked on a Saturday afternoon. "I'm busy organizing the laundry room," Helena replied without looking at the girl. "But maybe later." "We'll see." Lizzie stood in the laundry room doorway for a moment, confused by her coldness. Victor noticed the change immediately. Helena had gone back to being polite but distant, like in the early days. She did her work efficiently but avoided long conversations. She smiled less. She seemed to be hiding behind an invisible wall. He tried a few times to start a conversation, to ask if everything was okay, but Helena always said yes and changed the subject. "Is Helena mad at me?" Lizzie asked one night at bedtime. "Why would you think that? She's different. More distant." Victor sighed. He had noticed it too. "Sometimes people need some time to think, Lizzie. It doesn't mean she's mad at you." "But did I do something wrong?" "No, sweetie. You didn't do anything wrong." But Victor could tell Helena was fighting something. There was something in the way she looked at them, as if she was saying goodbye. The feeling made him uneasy. But he didn't know how to approach the subject without seeming invasive. The following Wednesday, Helena made her decision. She waited until Victor and Lizzie were asleep. She packed her bags in silence, putting away her few clothes and her special notebook. The drawing Lizzie had made of her with the family, she left on the wall. She couldn't take it. It hurt too much to look at. Before she left, she wrote a note and left it on the kitchen table. "It was too good. And because of that, it's dangerous. I can't risk losing you. It's better to leave before that happens. Thank you for letting me be a part of your family, even for a short time. Take care, Helena." She grabbed her backpack and left through the back door, leaving the key on the table with the note. The street was empty and cold. Helena walked without a clear destination, trying not to think about the warm room she was leaving behind, the comfortable bed, the smell of cinnamon that was always in the kitchen in the morning, trying not to think about Lizzie waking up and looking for her, about Victor reading the note, about the pain she was causing to protect herself from a greater pain. Victor woke up early as always and went down to the kitchen. Strangely, there was no smell of coffee. The coffee maker was cold, the mugs put away. That's when he saw the note on the table. He read it once, then read it again, unable to fully process it. Helena was gone. She had left because it was too good. "Daddy?" Lizzie appeared in the kitchen, still in her pajamas. "Where's Helena?" Victor quickly folded the note, but he couldn't hide the expression on his face. She had to go on a trip, Lizzie. A trip, but she didn't say anything yesterday. Victor didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that sometimes people run away from good things because they're afraid of losing them? Is she coming back? Lizzie asked, and there was an anxiety in her voice that broke Victor's heart. I don't know, sweetie. Lizzie was quiet for a moment, processing. Did she leave because of us? No, Lizzie. It wasn't because of us. But as Victor looked around the silent kitchen, as he felt the emptiness Helena had left behind, he realized how much she had become a part of their lives. The house felt bigger, colder. The silence was as heavy as a thick blanket. There were no more sounds of light footsteps in the morning, no quiet humming, no soft conversations. And for the first time, Victor fully understood what he had lost. Not just someone who helped with the housework. Helena had become family, an essential part of who they were together, and now she was gone because she was afraid to stay. Victor looked at Lizzie, who was sitting at the table with her eyes full of tears, and felt his own pain mix with his daughter's. Helena was right about one thing. When you get attached, there's a risk of loss. But she was wrong about another. Sometimes, what you gain is worth more than the risk you take. Now it was too late to explain that to her. 3 days. Helena had been gone for 3 days, and Victor couldn't stop looking for her. On the first day, he had tried to act normal for Lizzie's sake. He explained that Helena had left to sort out some problems, that sometimes people needed time. Lizzie accepted the explanation with the simple trust of a child, but Victor saw the same question in her eyes that tormented him. When is she coming back? On the second day, the house began to feel strange, too quiet, too neat. Victor realized how much Helena had changed their routine without him even noticing. There was no more smell of fresh coffee when he woke up, no more cinnamon toast waiting for Lizzie at breakfast. The house was functional, but it felt empty. On the third day, he couldn't take it anymore. Lizzie, what do you think about stopping by Grandma's house this afternoon? He asked during lunch. The girl's eyes lit up. Can I bring my new drawings? Of course. Victor left Lizzie with Sarah's mother and went out to look for Helena. He didn't have a specific plan, he just drove through the town streets, looking for a woman with brown hair who could be anywhere. He started with the obvious places. The square where he had first found her was empty, except for a few pigeons and an elderly man reading a newspaper. The city shelter said she hadn't been there. The public library, where people sometimes spent the day to keep warm, had no news either. Victor drove down the main streets, then the side streets. He checked parks, bus stops, benches scattered around town. It started to get dark, and he still hadn't found any sign of her. He was about to give up when he saw her. It was a street he knew well, near the center of town. Helena was sitting on the sidewalk, leaning against the wall of a closed shop. She was wearing the same dark coat as when he first found her, but now it seemed even thinner against the returning cold. She was huddled, her knees drawn up to her chest, her arms wrapped around her legs, the exact same position he had seen her in on the park bench weeks ago. Victor parked on the other side of the street and watched for a moment. Helena was staring at the ground, completely still. She looked smaller, more fragile than he remembered. He crossed the street slowly, as if approaching a frightened animal. Helena, she lifted her head quickly, her eyes wide with shock. For a second, Victor saw relief on her face, but it was quickly replaced by a defensive expression. Victor, she didn't stand up, just looked at him cautiously. What are you doing here? Looking for you. Why? The question was simple but loaded with pain, as if she genuinely couldn't understand why someone would bother to look for her. Victor crouched in front of her, bringing himself to her level. Because you're part of our family. And families don't give up on each other. Helena shook her head. I'm not your family, Victor. I'm just someone you helped for a little while. Is that what you think? It's what I know. She pulled her coat tighter around herself. I don't belong in your world. The sentence came out heavy with a sorrow so deep that Victor felt like he'd been punched. Helena, he said softly, you belong where you are loved, and we love having you. Her eyes filled with tears, but she tried to hide it by looking away. You don't understand. I have nothing to offer. No education, No family, no worthy past. I'm just a woman who was living on the street. So what? What do you mean, so what? Helena stared at him, disbelief mixed with anger. I have nothing, Victor, nothing. You have everything that matters. Like what? You have a heart that made my daughter smile again. You have hands that turned our house into a home. You have a voice that tells the most beautiful stories I've ever heard. Victor sat down on the sidewalk next to her. You have the capacity to love and be loved. The rest is just paper. Helena cried silently, the tears streaming down her face without her trying to stop them. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? Of getting used to it. Of starting to believe that it's real, that it's mine, and then losing it all over again. Victor nodded. He knew that fear. I'm scared too, he admitted. I'm scared that Lizzie will get too attached, and you'll leave again. I'm scared I won't be able to take care of you the way you deserve. I'm scared I'm asking for too much. You're not asking for too much. Then why did you run? Helena wiped her face with her hands. Because it was getting too easy, too natural. I was starting to feel like that was my real life. And it can't be. Can it? The question came out vulnerable, full of hope mixed with fear. It can, Victor said firmly. Say if you want it to be, but it has to be your choice. It can't be because you feel obligated or grateful. It has to be because you want to be there. Helena was quiet for a long time, looking at her own hands. What if I don't know how to be part of a family? She finally asked. None of us do. We've been winging it since day one. What if I'm not good enough? Helena. Victor waited for her to look at him. You are already good enough. You always were. More tears streamed down her face, but these were different. Tears of relief, of acceptance. Lizzie must hate me, she murmured. Lizzie is sad. But she doesn't hate you. She loves you, even after I left, especially after you left, because now she knows what it's like to lose you. Helena closed her eyes. I'm so sorry for leaving, for making you worry. You don't have to apologize for being scared. You just have to decide if you want to try again. I do, she said softly. Jamet, it can't be like before. What do you mean? I can't just exist in your house. I need to have my own money, my own life. I need to feel worthy of being there. Victor nodded. How about we make it official? A fair salary for the work you do. And maybe we can think of other ways for you to grow too. You would do that? Helena, I would do anything to have you back. We both would. She took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. Okay. But I want to be clear that this time it's a choice. It's not desperation, it's not gratitude. It's because I want to be with you. That's all I wanted to hear. Victor stood up and held out his hand to her. Helena looked at the outstretched hand for a moment, then took it and stood up as well. Shall we go home? He asked. Let's go home. The return was different from the first time Helena had arrived at the house. Now she wasn't entering as a stranger seeking shelter. She was entering as someone who had made a conscious choice to be there. Lizzie was waiting in the living room when they arrived. Victor had called from the road to let Sarah's mother know they were on their way back. Helena! Lizzie ran and threw herself into her arms. You came back. I came back, Helena said, hugging the girl tightly. I missed you so much. I missed you too. The house was so quiet without you. I'm sorry for leaving without explaining. Lizzie pulled back a little to look at Helena. Were you scared? The child's direct question caught Helena by surprise. I was... How did you know? Because sometimes I get scared too. Daddy taught me that when we're scared, it's better to talk about it than to run away. Helena looked at Victor, who gave a small smile. Your daughter is very wise, she said. She gets it from her mother, Victor replied. That night, after Lizzie went to sleep, Victor and Helena talked about the new arrangements. She would have a fixed salary, clear responsibilities, and Victor would encourage her to think about her own goals. I don't want you to feel trapped here, he said. I want you to feel free to grow, to discover what you want to do with your life. And what if I discover that what I want is to stay right here? Then you stay. For as long as you want. Helena smiled, a genuine smile, without fear or hesitation. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for deciding to trust us. In the following days, the house came back to life. But it was different now. Helena was no longer hiding behind a wall of politeness. She participated in conversations during meals, gave her opinions on the movies they watched together, and laughed at Victor's silly jokes. Lizzie was radiant. She started smiling constantly again, seeking out Helena to play and making plans for the future that included all three of them. Helena, when it's my birthday, will you be here? She asked one night. When is your birthday? In 2 months. If you want me to be, I will be. I do, and I want you to help me pick the cake. Of course, we can make a list of the flavors you like. Victor watched these interactions with a new feeling. It was no longer gratitude or relief, it was acknowledgement. Helena was no longer someone they were helping. She was someone who chose to be there, who was part of the family in her own right. He began to include her in decisions about the house, asking for her opinion on important matters. When he needed to choose a new school for Lizzie, he asked what Helena thought. When he was thinking about remodeling the kitchen, he wanted to know if she had any suggestions. You don't have to consult me on everything, Helena said one night, after he asked for her opinion on the family finances. I know, but I want your opinion. You're a part of all this. Does it matter that much, my opinion? It matters completely. You see things I don't see. You know Lizzie in a way I sometimes don't. And besides, Victor hesitated. Besides, I trust you. Helena felt something warm in her chest. Trust. It wasn't pity. It wasn't obligation. It was genuine trust. I trust you too, she said. So I have both of you. And for the first time since she arrived at that house, Helena allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she really did belong there. Not as a temporary guest or a grateful employee, but as someone who had chosen to stay and was chosen back every single day. That's what a family did, she was learning. They chose each other over and over, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard, and Helena finally felt ready to make that choice every day. 2 weeks had passed since Helena returned, and the house breathed with a different rhythm. It was no longer the heavy silence of the first few days, nor the cautious tension of when she was afraid to get attached. It was something new, a natural harmony, as if the three of them had finally found the right tempo to live together. Helena woke up in the morning without the pang of anxiety that had accompanied her for so long. There was no more silent question of, do they still want me here? Now she simply woke up and prepared for another day with her family. Her family. She had started thinking that way without realizing it. It was no longer Victor's family or the house where she lived. It was her family too. There were little signs of it scattered around the house, her favorite mug on the kitchen shelf, her plants on the windowsill, her preferred armchair in the living room. That Saturday morning, Helena was in the kitchen making pancakes when she heard Lizzie coming down the stairs. The girl appeared in her pajamas, her blonde hair completely messy and still half asleep. "Good morning, Helena," Lizzie said, stretching. "Good morning, sleepyhead. What did you dream about today?" "I dreamed we had a giant dog that knew how to make breakfast." Lizzie laughed at her own imagination, but his pancakes were all burnt. "Lucky for you, my pancakes aren't burnt then." "Yeah, you make the best pancakes in the world." Lizzie came closer to the pan to watch. "How do you get them to all be the same size?" "Practice. And a little bit of love in each one." "Does love make a difference in food?" "It makes all the difference. Food made with love always tastes better." Helena smiled, flipping a golden pancake in the pan. Simple compliments like that still warmed her from the inside. Victor appeared a few minutes later, already dressed for the day but with his hair still disheveled. "Good morning, everyone. How are my two favorite girls?" The phrase came out naturally, without thought, but it hit Helena like an unexpected caress. His two girls. He had said it as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Good morning, Daddy. Helena is making heart-shaped pancakes." "Heart-shaped?" Victor came closer to see. "What special talent is this?" "It's nothing much," Helena said, trying to hide the pleasure she felt at the compliment. It's just a matter of how you pour the batter. Looks like pure magic to me. Victor took a still warm pancake from the pile. May I? Of course. A new batch is almost ready. Helena laughed, feeling her face grow warm. It was amazing how Victor could make even the simplest gestures seem special. They had breakfast talking about their plans for the weekend. Lizzie wanted to go to the park if it didn't rain. Victor had some reports to finish, but nothing urgent. Helena was thinking about organizing the hallway closet. Helena, can you play house with me after lunch? Lizzie asked, licking the last bit of pancake off her fork. Of course. What kind of house? The one we built in my room. I want to pretend we're cooking a special dinner for important guests. And who are the important guests? I haven't decided yet. Maybe the president or a princess, or that singer Daddy likes to listen to in the car. Victor laughed. Which singer? The one who sings about houses and roads. Oh, you mean James Taylor. That's him. He can come have dinner at our little house. Helena watched Lizzie's excitement and felt that familiar warmth in her chest. The girl had an imagination that turned any ordinary moment into something special. How about we make real cookies to serve in the playhouse? Helena suggested. Can we? Real cookies in our pretend game? Why not? It'll make everything feel more real. You're the best, Helena. Victor watched the interaction between them with a smile on his face. There was something magical about the way Helena could enter Lizzie's world. After breakfast, while Victor worked in his makeshift office in the living room, Helena and Lizzie made the cookie dough. Lizzie helped by measuring ingredients and telling stories about every kitchen utensil. This spoon here was my mommy's, she said, holding a dark wooden spoon. Daddy told me she liked to use it to make cakes. Helena took the spoon carefully, as if it were sacred. She must have made delicious cakes. Daddy said she did. I don't remember very well because I was really little when she died. Lizzie spoke without sadness, just with the natural acceptance of children. But sometimes I feel like I remember the smell. Smell is a very powerful memory. Maybe you really do remember. You think so? I do, and I'm sure she would be happy to know you're using her special spoon to make cookies. Lizzie smiled, mixing the dough with more care. Do you think she would have liked you, Helena? The question caught Helena by surprise. She stopped mixing her own dough for a moment. I don't know, Lizzie. Why? Because I think she would have liked you a lot. You take care of us the way mommies do. Helena felt her eyes sting a little. Thank you. That's the nicest compliment anyone has ever given me. It's true. And you know what else? What? Sometimes I forget you're not my real mum. It's like you've always been here. Helena had to blink several times to keep the tears from falling. I feel that way sometimes too. Really, really, like I was born to be here with you two. Lizzie smiled and continued mixing the dough. Maybe you were. Daddy says sometimes the right people come into our lives at the right time. In the afternoon, after the cookies had cooled, they went to Lizzie's room to play house. Helena had helped build a small house using cardboard boxes, fabrics, and pillows. Lizzie had a collection of toy pots and pans she used to cook elaborate meals. So now you stay here in the kitchen, and I'll answer the door to welcome the guests, Lizzie instructed, very serious in her role as lady of the house. Helena positioned herself behind the makeshift counter of the toy kitchen, arranging the real cookies on small plates. Remember, we have to be very polite to the important guests, Lizzie said, adjusting a small tablecloth on the doll's table. Of course, I'll be on my best behavior. Ding dong! Lizzie ran to the door of the playhouse. Oh, hello. I'm so glad you could come. Please, come in. My mom is preparing a delicious dinner in the kitchen. Helena froze. My mom. Lizzie had said, "Oh, my mom," with the same naturalness as someone saying, "Good afternoon," or "It's raining," as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Mum, the guests are here, Lizzie called from the other side of the cardboard house. Helena stood still, not knowing how to react. Her heart was beating so fast she was sure Lizzie could hear it. Her hands trembled slightly as she held a small plate of cookies. Mom, Lizzie appeared at the kitchen entrance. Didn't you hear me? The guests are waiting. I heard you, Helena managed to say, her voice quieter than usual. Lizzie looked at her curiously, sensing something was different. "Are you okay?" "You made a funny face." Helena knelt to be at the girl's eye level, putting the plate aside. "Lizzie, you called me Mom." "Did I?" Lizzie thought for a moment, then nodded. "Oh yeah, in the game, right? Didn't you like it?" "I loved it. I loved it very much." Helena's voice was thick with emotion. "It's just that it was special to hear that." "Why?" "Because I've never had a daughter before, and you've never had a second mum." Lizzie looked at Helena with that sudden seriousness children sometimes have. She sat down on the playhouse floor as if to have an important conversation. "But you're kind of like a mom to me now, right? You take care of me, you help me with my braids, you tell bedtime stories, you make heart-shaped pancakes, you teach me things." Lizzie paused to think. "And you're sad when I'm sad, and happy when I'm happy." Helena felt the tears finally fall down her face. "Lizzie, are you sure this is what you want?" "I'd call me Mom, I'm sure," Lizzie said with the devastating simplicity of a child. "Because that's what you are. Not the mom who had me in her tummy, but the mom who's here now. The mom who chose me." Helena opened her arms, and Lizzie threw herself into them. They hugged in the middle of the cardboard house, crying and laughing at the same time. "I love you, my sweet girl," Helena whispered. "I love you too, Mom." From the hallway, Victor had heard the whole conversation. He was standing in the bedroom doorway, watching the scene, and felt as if his heart might burst with emotion. He had come to see if the girls wanted a snack, but was frozen in place when he heard Lizzie call Helena Mom. And even more so when he saw Helena's reaction, the surprise, the emotion, the total acceptance of that role. In that moment, Victor understood that Helena was no longer just someone helping to care for Lizzie. She had become the girl's mother in every way that mattered. Not out of obligation, but out of genuine love and mutual choice. He backed away from the door silently, deciding to give them a private moment. But the image of them hugging, crying with happiness, would be etched in his memory forever. When he returned to the living room, Victor took a deep breath. A wave of gratitude washed over him, gratitude that Helena had come back, that she had agreed to be part of their lives. His daughter had a mother again, and he was sure that Sarah would wholeheartedly approve of the choice. That evening, after dinner, the three of them settled in the living room to watch a movie. Lizzie chose an animated film about a family of bears, and they spread out on the large sofa with popcorn and blankets. There was nothing extraordinary about that moment. The popcorn was from the microwave, the movie was childish and repetitive, the blanket was a little worn. But there was something in the air that made everything perfect, a sense of completeness and of belonging, of peace. Victor looked around the room and realized how much the picture had changed in recent months. Before, it was just him and Lizzie, trying to fill the empty space in the house. Now it was three people who simply existed well together. Helena was in the middle of the sofa, with Lizzie snuggled up beside her. The girl had naturally settled there, as she always did now. It was no longer Helena's spot and Lizzie's spot. It was just their family's spot. "That bear reminds me of you, Daddy," Lizzie commented, pointing to the screen. "He's a little clumsy, but he has a good heart." "Thanks." "I think," Victor laughed. "And this mama bear here looks like you, Mum," Lizzie continued, looking at Helena. "She's kind and knows how to make the best food in the forest." Helena smiled, stroking Lizzie's hair. She still got goosebumps every time she heard the word Mum. "And you're the smartest little bear cub of all." "Of course." "I take after my parents." Victor and Helena laughed at the girl's self-confidence. "Parents, plural," Victor murmured to Helena, who smiled and nodded. As the movie went on, Lizzie grew sleepy. She eventually fell asleep, leaning against Helena, who adjusted the blanket to cover her better. "I should take her to bed," Victor whispered. "Let her stay a little longer," Helena requested softly. "She's so warm," Victor agreed. He was in no hurry to break the moment. They sat in silence, watching the end of the movie while Lizzie slept between them. Helena gently stroked the girl's hair, an expression of absolute tenderness on her face. "Helena," Victor said as the credits began to roll. How does it feel to be called Mom? Helena looked at the sleeping Lizzie, then at Victor. Scared, she admitted, but also complete, as if a part of me that was lost has found its way back home. You're going to be a wonderful mother to her. Do you really think so? You already are, Helena smiled, and Victor saw tears in her eyes again. You know what's funny, she said quietly. What? I spent my whole life thinking I didn't belong anywhere, that I had no family, that I would always be just a person passing through other people's lives. She looked at Lizzie, then at him. When I got here, I was desperate. I just wanted to survive another day. And now? Helena was quiet for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. Now I realize I wasn't looking for a home when I arrived here. I was just trying to survive. But I think a home found me anyway. The phrase came out softly, full of a deep gratitude that Victor felt in his own chest. A home found you? Yes. You two found me, and you let me stay not out of pity or obligation, but because I fit here somehow. Victor reached out and covered Helena's hand with his. You did more than fit. You completed us. Helena looked at their intertwined hands, then at him. I never imagined I could love someone the way I love you two. I never imagined someone could love me back. Well, you can, and we are loved. It's strange, isn't it, how some things just happen, without planning, without logic. They just happen. The best things in life are like that, Victor said. They sat in a comfortable silence, watching Lizzie sleep. Her breathing was soft and steady, and every now and then she would murmur something incomprehensible in her dreams. Victor, Helena said after a while. Yes? Thank you. For not giving up on me when I ran away. For coming to find me. For giving me a second chance. Thank you for coming back. For agreeing to be a part of this. I didn't know this was what I wanted until I found it. What? A family. A place where I could be myself and still be loved. Victor gently squeezed her hand, and Helena knew he was thinking the same thing. That the three of them had found something rare and precious, a family made not of blood or obligation, but of choice, care, and the courage to trust one another. They didn't need to say anything more. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of understanding, acceptance, and a love that had grown without rush, without pressure, just naturally. There in that simple living room, with a little girl sleeping between them and a movie about bears still playing softly on the TV, Helena finally understood what it meant to be home. It wasn't about the place, it was about the people. It was about being chosen every day, about choosing back, about building something together that was greater than the sum of its parts. It was about a little girl who called her mom because that's what she had become. It was about a man who held her hand as if it had always belonged there. It was about herself, who had learned that she deserved to be loved, that she deserved to stay, that she deserved a home. When they finally carried Lizzie to bed, the girl murmured sleepily, "Good night, Daddy." "Good night, Mom." And for the first time in her life, Helena fell asleep knowing exactly where she belonged. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel.